I, 26 female, and my husband, 32, welcomed our baby boy about a year ago. It was my first pregnancy, and honestly, it was pretty rough. The labor pain was incredibly severe. Still, I wanted natural delivery, so I went through it. Due to the severe pain, I couldn't control it and was screaming and crying. My husband, who hadn't slept the whole night, got agitated by the screaming and said to me, "Just try to suck it up a bit instead of screaming like this." I honestly cried because of his comment and the pain. The baby was born some hours later, and we sort of forgot the incident. A few days ago, my husband felt a sudden pain in his stomach, and it only got more severe to the point we had to take him to the hospital at that moment. The doctor did a few checkups and told him he had a kidney stone and needed treatment. Since the pain was so severe, my husband got painkiller shots. Even then, he was screaming at the top of his lungs. At that moment, I got petty, and since I was already fussy from sleeplessness due to taking care of a toddler, I said to my husband, "Can't you just suck it up for a while? Why are you shouting so much?" He was shocked and then later remained quiet. When we went home, he was still quiet, and when asked, he told me how insensitive I was and that he felt so bad. To this, I reminded him of when he had said the same thing. Now he's angry, calling me petty and saying he didn't mean anything, but I had malicious reasons. So, am I the idiot for telling my husband to suck it up for a while when he was suffering due to a kidney stone? Edit, do we love each other? Yes, we do. It wasn't like I held on to what he said to me. However, at that moment, everything was so similar to that time that I remembered that incident, and in the spur of the moment, I said it to him. I didn't ask him to go out of the delivery room or make a big deal about it that time because even though I was hurt, I also understood his sentiments. Stress from work, sleeplessness, the overwhelming feeling of being a parent for the first time, and a constantly screaming wife can really mess with a person. I didn't want to keep him away from being the witness to his child's birth or ruin his later moments with the baby just because of that. He cared for me and did everything a dad should, and I did everything for him. No, we're not going to divorce each other for such silly banters. It's one of the few times I wanted to come and get some insight. You were petty, but damn well justified. Tell him your pettiness stems from how you've never forgotten how he spoke to you when you were at your most vulnerable. How do you like them apples? And what did your husband expect was going to happen? That you'd sit and coddle his pain when he invalidated yours? No, sir, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Hopefully he will quit wallowing in self-pity and realize that dismissing the pain of someone one claims to love is beyond callous and was wrong of him. We as a society need to bring back ethical pettiness, LOL. Being petty in return when someone was petty to you during an actual moment of weakness and struggle. I can't even imagine what I would have done if my husband told me to suck it up while I was giving birth. I might have caught a charge or something, LOL, because that man would not have seen the next day's light. Compared to that, this pettiness on OP's part is well deserved, LOL. Not the idiot all the way, and if hubby didn't mind telling a pregnant woman whose insides were being shredded open to give way to a whole human to suck it up, he surely shouldn't mind this. My girlfriend did the same thing. She sprained her ankle playing ball and was taken to the hospital. When she phoned home to ask her husband to come pick her up, he told her, "You figured out how to get to the hospital, you can figure out how to get home." It was literally less than a 5-minute car ride. They gave her crutches and sent her on her way. Once home, he gave her zero help when she had to climb steep stairs. A couple of years later, he was hurt at work and taken to the ER. He called her up and asked her to pick him up, and she told him exactly the same thing he told her. She also wouldn't even bring a cup of coffee to him while he could barely get up from the couch. He asked her why she was being so cold. When she reminded him that she was treating him precisely the same way that he treated her, he said, "Just because I'm an idiot doesn't mean you have to be." No, they are no longer married. Frankly, I'm surprised he survived long enough to get divorced. This is a little update for you all since many jumped to the craziest conclusions. I went to my husband and apologized. He said I don't have to and he wasn't angry, just embarrassed. We talked about it and actually found it quite funny. Sure, he was acting like he was angry, but that just meant he rolled his eyes at me and had an expression like, "Are you serious?" So yeah, he doesn't hate me, nor do I hate him. I will prepare a nice dinner for us since the past few days have been exhausting and my husband also needs a good treat. So yeah, nothing too crazy as some of you expected. Have a good day, people. I'm a Brazilian but have lived in the US for 3 years. My first language is Portuguese. I have a preschool-aged son and I'm pregnant with a girl due in May. My son is friends with a girl whose mother, I'll call her Becca, is also pregnant. She's due a couple of weeks before me and is expecting a third girl. We frequently discuss our pregnancy since we take our kids on playdates almost weekly. Becca is into unique names, not uniques or tragedies, but names she and her husband created. It's not my style, but she came up with genuinely nice names for her older daughters, so there was never really a reason for me to say anything. This time, Becca and her husband had trouble creating a new name. She first brought this up last December. For months, they tried to create something that sounded good with no success. We took our kids on a play date at a park this weekend. Becca excitedly told me they'd finally settled on a name when we sat for a snack. I was really happy for her and asked what they'd chosen. Narina. To those who don't know, that's Portuguese for nostril. I managed to control myself and told her it sounded lovely, but my son giggled. My husband and I are raising him bilingual so he speaks Portuguese, and Becca wanted to know why. I tried to brush it off, but she kept insisting. Eventually, I told her that while Narina could be a lovely name, it was also the Portuguese word for nostril. Becca seemed really sad to hear that. She said she'd think of something else but had fallen in love with Narina. After we went home, Becca's husband called me. He was furious at me for ruining the only name they'd agreed on. Apparently, he fought with Becca because she told him she wanted to think of something else. He argued they'd never visit Brazil anyway, so they shouldn't have to change the name, but Becca refused to use Narina. My husband agrees that their fight is not my fault. Still, he thinks I didn't need to tell Becca anything, since Americans are unlikely to know what Narina means. Am I the idiot? Edit, this was not my son's fault. He's a preschooler and had an honest reaction to hearing a baby would essentially be named Nostril. I get that some people might think I was the idiot, but I don't blame my child for this. Not the idiot. Your friend's husband is the idiot for confronting you. You weren't really given any other choice other than to explain your son's reaction. Even if you brushed it off, there's a high chance your son might have spilled the beans later, like after her child is born. Young kids rarely know how or when to filter things, which goes double if they're chatty. I'm also shocked they didn't bother Googling their name ideas as they came up with them. I see Narina as nostril on the first page of the search results. I googled it. Narina is a type of bird, and it means fresh pomegranate flower as a Persian name. They way overreacted. Many names and words mean something different in another language. At least the word is innocuous. The name Bill sounds like brother-in-law in Dutch, which means buttock. Do you think people are going to stop using Bill as a name? William has to be one of the most common names in existence. She needs to chill and use the name she likes. I, 33 female, am an OBGYN and I've been travelling around different parts of the world on missions with Médecins Sans Frontières. Long story short, it had been 15 months since I'd been home. For some context, I decided to join due to a depressive episode after my ex-girlfriend broke up with me, but I ended up loving it and I just kept going on missions for 15 months. My ex-girlfriend is a good friend of my sister-in-law, Penny. I decided to take some time off and return for a while before deciding what's next for me. I returned 2 weeks ago. My brother, I'll call him Harry, 34, and his wife Penny, 28, are expecting their first child. They scheduled a baby shower for yesterday, and Penny invited me. Family members and some of Harry's old friends were asking me questions about different missions, why I left for charity when I could earn a fortune here, whether it was hard being a woman in those areas, etc. I gave them short answers, but they asked more questions. Penny subtly asked me to talk one-on-one in the middle of the party. She told me I was monopolizing everyone's attention and taking up everyone's time. No one was paying attention to the purpose of this gathering due to my being there. I apologized and asked her if she wanted me to leave. She said I'd been enough of a distraction and told me to please leave early. I left about half an hour after this talk. So far, everything's good. The next day, Harry called me and told me I'd been a rude guest the day before because I'd ruined their first child's baby shower. He said I should have kept quiet or at the very least left the party the moment Penny asked me to. Was I an idiot? All you did was travel around the world providing much-needed medical care to those in need. Your sister-in-law is the first person in history to have reproduced, so I can't believe people thought what you did was even worth discussing. Honey, you are not the idiot. Fellow medical professional, you responded to inquiries about your work and travels and kept the responses nice and light. To chastise you because they didn't expect anyone to discuss anything other than the parents-to-be is wrong. Others enjoying your company should not diminish their celebration. If they were bothered by your presence, they need to address it internally. P.S. I did mission trips to Guatemala and Peru and had amazing experiences. Thank you for working with underserved communities. Boy, this must have been a very boring baby shower if OP's mere presence and conversation about work were enough to distract the guests. It's not like you were juggling monkeys while standing on your head. You were answering questions. OP, thank you for your work. I'm, male 43, a single dad to two twin daughters, 18, Jess and Amy, not their real names. Their mom hasn't been in their lives since they were about 6. As a result, we're a close family and the girls have an extremely tight bond. They couldn't be more different as people though. Jess is a big extrovert, she loves to party, is out every weekend, and has a boyfriend and a big circle of friends. On the other hand, Amy is introverted and shy and spends most of her time studying or reading. They still remain really close, and I hope that Jess brings Amy out of her shell more, and Amy encourages Jess to study more than she currently does. Last weekend, Jess had been invited to a party with a group of friends. Amy hadn't been, and I suggested to Jess to let Amy come as well. I thought it would be good for her to socialise after working hard throughout the week. Jess mentioned it to Amy, and when Amy asked me, I told her she should go. They both got ready that evening. Jess picked out Amy's outfit, and it was great to see some sisterly bonding. At around 2 a.m, I heard a big thud downstairs, waking me up. Jess was carrying Amy, who was clearly very, very intoxicated. When I asked what happened, Jess told me that Amy had gotten carried away drinking, and as she's not used to alcohol at all, it had had a bad effect on her. Jess told me Amy was talking to everyone, flirting with boys, taking her top off to expose her bra, drinking shots, and essentially nothing like her character. Jess took her away at 2 a.m. to come home. While Amy was vomiting in the toilet, I got annoyed at Jess for allowing her to get in that state as she knew Amy didn't drink and Jess had a responsibility to look out for her when she was on her own. Jess said, Amy's an adult and she can do what she likes, which got me extremely irate, and I shouted at Jess I knew Amy wouldn't have been in that state if Jess wasn't encouraging her to drink and party. Amy has been extremely embarrassed and hungover since and has said she's never planning to socialise with Jess or at school again. I've told Jess I'm disappointed in her for allowing this, which she said is entirely unfair. Now she's being distant with both Amy and me. Part of me feels this is justified as I know Jess would have had an influence on Amy, while the other part of me does know she's an adult who should make her own choices. So, am I the idiot? Note that we're in the UK where the legal drinking age is 18. You are the idiot. You also encouraged her to go to an adult party with alcohol, not just Jess. Amy is 100% an adult, in the eyes of UK law at least, and can make her own adult decisions. Even if Jess encouraged her to go overboard, which you have no proof of, Amy is still old enough to make her own choices. Also, you asked Jess to include Amy. You can't expect Jess to babysit her adult sister. You should be sitting Amy down and having a supportive conversation about limits and when to stop. Dumping the blame on Jess is an unreasonable reaction. You're punishing Jess for doing what you asked. Jess did what a good friend does. She got her home. It's completely unreasonable for you to be mad at Jess for Amy's drinking. You owe Jess an apology and a sincere thank you. You need to talk about Amy about moderation and safety when socializing. Also, you owe Amy an apology. People need to stop acting like there's something wrong with being an introvert. My female 41 son, 20, has been in a relationship with his girlfriend Lily, 20, for about 3 years now. I love my son and I hate to say this, but he's not turned out to be a good person. He has minimal work ethic, has no desire to get a job or go to college, and spends most of his time gaming or partying. Lily, on the other hand, is the polar opposite. She's very intellectual, has aspirations to be a doctor, is an excellent swimmer, and is currently away at college. When my son and Lily first got together in high school, they were an excellent match. We loved having Lily over and my son cared more for himself. Since then, it's rapidly deteriorated. I know my son still loves Lily, but he never gives the attention she deserves, and with her clear potential, I just feel she deserves better. When Lily visited a few days ago, she was visibly upset. When my son went to the store, I asked her if she was okay, and she told me that she didn't know what to do and wondered why my son had such little ambition and was so lazy. I told her I didn't see it changing anytime soon, as that's my view, given it's been ongoing for almost 2 years. When she asked what I would do in her situation, I told her to put herself first and what she wanted. Lily thanked me and said she'd think about things. Well, earlier today, my son came downstairs in a rage telling me that Lily had broken up with him via text. I asked him what she said, and apparently the message referred to discussions with your mom that had made her rethink the relationship. My son was livid that I'd gotten involved and said I'd overstepped boundaries. I told him I didn't advise Lily to leave him, I just said she had to make choices and decide what was best for her. My son is now not talking to me, and my husband is annoyed, believing that having no Lily will make my son's rut last even longer. I also miss having Lily around. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You didn't tell her to end the relationship. You told her to consider her needs. Your son certainly wasn't. Tell your husband it isn't up to Lily to get your son out of his rut. He may need to spend more time teaching him how to be a good man, not a mooch. Let your son be angry. He will do one of two things: stay angry or get off his butt and start pulling his own weight. Too many young adults have little to no aspirations and are more concerned with living in the moment. Yeah, your husband should really back off volunteering Lily to be his son's emotional support animal. Pretty dehumanizing to be reduced to the cure for the son's apathy, laziness, and selfishness. She is her own person with her own wants and dreams, not the manic pixie dream girl who comes in to save a man from himself. Thank you, OP, for helping to clarify to a promising young woman that her life will always be worth more than fixing her partner. So many people are giving away their lives trying to fix or help someone who isn't taking responsibility for their own growth. Hopefully there's a lesson in this for your son. His choices have consequences and perhaps even be the spark that gets him going.